Lee is the channeler of Kryon, whom you are probably familiar with. So this is such a special treat for us. Lee and Monica, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, we're great. I want everybody to know this is Monica. She uses her maiden name, Muranyi, and that is a
Okay.
Hungarian name, but she's from Australia. Are we confused yet?
Yeah, I think we're very confused. But the main thing of why I guess Lee and I are together is because there is so much love for us, for you, for
Hmm.
this planet from an entity called Kryon. And if it wasn't for Kryon, I wouldn't have gone on a journey that had me bump into Lee, and there was this magnetic attraction of us pulling together. And our divine purpose is bringing these powerful messages to support us in our own journey, because believe it or not, every single person on the planet was born magnificent, and there is an awakening going on, and you are part of it, because the seeds of peace are already planted and they're beginning to sprout. So you're in the right place at the right
Yeah,
time.
you
That's
really
why
are.
we're so excited.
And Aaron's got a lot of questions, and we'll give it to you slowly because sometimes it's a hard thing to grasp all at once.
So can you all share your story with me? Were you already channeling Kryon, Lee, prior to meeting Monica?
I was. I've been channeling since 1989, and that would be 35 years.
Wow.
Monica's been part of my life for probably the last 13 or so. She
Okay.
actually started, it's been 10 years or so when she started writing her books, which were more of an explanation and compilations of what Cryon's work was and putting it together in a more palatable form, I would think, and making it easier for people to read. So we have been together all that time. We present together. We have a 90-minute show every week. This is the studio we do it in, and we also travel. So this is what we do together. But she stands on her own. Her books are in a separate publisher than mine, and all. She went and got that contract by herself. So I'm very proud of her.
But
Very proud of
I
her.
love Lee's story because he was a stubborn, left brained, logical audio engineer who had a wife at the time who was incredibly metaphysical. And that was fine as long as she didn't try and impose any of that stuff onto him. But her name's Jan Toba. We see her every week. She's a
Beautiful.
past wife of Leaves, and we love her dearly. If it wasn't for Jan, we wouldn't have Kryon, because she asked Lee to go to a
Mhm.
psychic, a medium, and
Okay.
he didn't want to go. And he felt the whole thing was gibberish. He got a cassette tape, put it away, and never wanted that experience again. But 3 years later, there's another psychic in town, and Jan Toba says, "Please come. It'll be quick. He's a young guy. It's my birthday. Do it for my birthday." All right.
Mhm.
So he turns up, and the young gentleman says, "You really don't want to be here. I'll keep it short." And I'm abbreviating the story for the interest of time. But he said, "There's a magnetic master named Kryon trying to get a hold of you." So this, again, was ridiculed, thought of as ridiculous, until, of course, Lee thought, I've heard that phrase before, because as an audio engineer, you hear audio. And he went home, found that tape, and the exact phrase was there. And the
Wow.
rest is history, because basically we have a phrase where spirit wants to made you look, made you look, made you look.
I
And as
love it.
soon as you
Mhm.
as soon as you made you look, then there is spirit with such a love wash. There wasn't
Mhm.
messages, wasn't channeling, it was just pure love. And so
Mhm.
then the process began. For me, my background is I was a national park ranger in Australia for about 15 years. And when my marriage ended and I was so distraught,
Mm.
it cracked me open.
Sure.
And long story short, my journey led to move to New Zealand. And in a yoga class, I was given Kryon Book 7. And reading that book with Kryon, just every cell vibrated. And I
Mm.
knew there was some deep truths there. And each of you watching this, we all have inside of us this divine spark with an antenna that's ready to receive information about our own magnificence. And when it turns up, that made you look, you answer the call, because the call's not coming outside of you. It exists within you, and it's a little bit, I guess, dormant until we explode to that knowledge and awakening. So that's the story of us in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, you all have been doing this for a long time. I'm curious to know, have you witnessed Cryon's maybe personality or persona or interest and focus shift over the years? Or has the message and the way that the energy comes through been consistent?
Let me give you a phrase that I learned in church. I found the love of God in church, and I tell everybody it didn't. God got bigger for me. I didn't suddenly
Mm,
get strange and throw away everything that was
right.
precious. Answering your question, the phrase is God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That is what I've experienced. Kryon is an angelic
Mm,
energy, if you want to say. It's
okay.
more than just an entity. It's, I would say, an angelic group. This is the way it feels to me. It always has. Anytime you work with quantum energy, and Erin, you know this, it is way beyond that which you experience on the earth, which is your three-dimensional construct. So Kryon was like so much more than
Mhm,
an angel or an angel entity. And there was so much love there. The question you've asked is, was there a change over the years? No. What
mm,
changed over the years was me.
I
And
see.
I had to grow into what Kryon was always telling me that I didn't get. So
Mhm.
slowly it would appear that Kryon changed, but it was my awareness of what that was given to me and the things that were being shown. And I grew into it. And there was a number of stellar moments, and maybe Erin, you'll even have a few of those as time goes on, where it changes, and you go, "Oh, have I changed, or has the entity changed?" And the answer
Mhm.
is you have. And so
Yep.
that's the best answer I can give you. But what has changed is remarkable. And if you ask the right questions, I'll give you those things.
The example that I'm hearing right now is a light bulb where that capacity for light to shine is always there. It just depends on the wattage. So it sounds like over the years, as you've increased your own frequency bandwidth and probably just your receptivity to the energy, you've been able to be a higher conduit for more of what Cryon has always been to come
Mhm.
through. And I think that's really important for all of us to take away because we're all on this ascension journey where we will all continuously expand into more and thus experience more of source or the field or, higher intelligence.
It's actually we can boil it down to something really, really practical. When I think all of us can look back a few years in our life and say, "Wow, I don't feel like I'm the same person that I was then because of what I've experienced, what I've learned. Oh, if I'd only known that." And so you could actually have that experience. The same thing spiritually. It's no different than any human being who is awakening to any kinds of new truths that you didn't have before. There's an expression that Christ uses: you can't look down, but you can look up. In other words, or you can't look up and you can't look down. Here's I got it backwards. Here's what I mean. You can always look backwards and say, I'm not the same person, but you can't look forward to know what you don't know yet. And
Mhm,
here's the way I handle that. I am aware that I have things coming that I don't know that are
mhm,
going to be greater than I know today. So I plan for them, I expect them, and I celebrate them before they arrive. Now, it doesn't get much more quantum than that. And this is what we tell people. I have news about this planet. What Kryon has said, what he said 35 years ago, has now happened. We're sitting in a time that's remarkable. And there are things that most people aren't even aware of. But when they start feeling it and the awareness starts to show up, You can't unknow anything. There's no delete key in your brain. And that's what we're talking about here, is awareness is like that. It's so special.
Yes. Yes. And when Kryon is coming through, are you having visuals, or are you in the background like some channelers say? Or are you sitting in a dark void? What's happening? And also, I'd love to hear for you, Monika, what's happening for you, because I'm sort of sensing this dual, like you all are connected telepathically.
We are very connected. I'll let her talk then. But you've asked what happens. The I have to tell you a story of one of the, I would say, milestones in my change with Kryon some years ago, when I was in the shower, which, by the way, I get a lot of information when I'm in the shower. And and when Kryon said, "Are you ready to go to the next level?" to me, and I hear these things, they're like thought groups that come in. I don't hear voices and
Mm.
all this. It's just there's like intuition, like it's just there. And the message, "Are you ready to go to the next level?" And I said, "Oh, I thought I was at the top level." So here we are. Saying, now you know who I am. And so I said, "Okay, what is it?" And he said, "Stop playing church." And I said, what does that mean?" And
Wow.
he said, "Well, you go to the meetings, you sit in a chair and you channel, and everybody comes and sees you, and then they go home, and so do you." And he says, "It's almost like you put me in the closet when you're done." And he said,
Wow.
"What you have to do, and what we want everyone to do, is to understand there's a God part of you that you can't put away. You can't dress up and go someplace and get more spiritual and come home and get less spiritual."
Mhm.
And that's what I was doing. I didn't realize it. And he said, "You will have to have a 24/7 meld." He says, "I'm going to be channeling to you all the time. And then when you are on the seat in order to channel, whether it's on
Mm.
television or whether it's in a meeting, you're just throwing a switch and letting everybody hear it. And that's the only difference. You don't bring me in and you don't put me away." I wasn't even aware that I was doing that. And so this
Mhm.
was one of the major shifts. And I tell everyone, it's not for the channeler that message was here, it's for every single human being. Once we discover that there's more, and we get into the feeling perhaps that we're okay about it, and that perhaps that our self-worth is increasing, we don't have to put that away every day and pull it out like we do our shirts and pants and stuff. It's
Yeah.
there forever. And I wake up in the morning realizing it. I'm so grateful for all of these things that I'm realizing we are. That sticks now. It sticks better. So I guess the message has always been, for everybody, is once you discover that God part of yourself, you start to feel the love. You're more compassionate. You feel you're more kind. That's forever. Don't put it away and bring it back and put it away. It's
Mhm.
you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is the message that I got. What do you say about it?
I love the message, and just the subject of channeling. It's relatively new on the planet in terms of the New Age movement, but channeling has been with humans ever since humanity was on the planet. And if you look at what channeling even means, it means divine inspiration or messages from the divine, or even messages from across the veil. So every piece of music that's written and composed is channeled. Art is this way. Often
Mhm.
they will see the painting in their mind and then just try and create on the canvas what came to them in a flash from that divine inspiration. But Lee has that unique ability where he is channeling Kryon, who he brought to the planet. No one was channeling this entity, or I don't even like to use that word entity. I'll talk more about who I see Kryon as in a moment. But Lee was the first one to bring Kryon through in 1989. And in one of the early books, Kryon even said to Lee, "You are not proprietary to channeling me. There will be other channelers who will channel Kryon in other cultures using different ways for their culture." But I love the messages that Lee brings through with Kryon. He
Mhm.
has perfected that art of stepping aside and being a conduit for receiving those messages. And part of what attracted me to Kryon was the high physics and the high science information that Kryon delivers through some of the messages. And then here is where I feel our connection together as the soulmates that we are. How I describe Kryon is family. And it's that feeling of home, that feeling of family. If you think of family, it's not one person, one individual. And this is Kryon's message, is that we are so linear, we're biased in thinking that we're one person, one soul, one thing in the mirror, and it is not that way at all. We're trying to grasp with the concept of oneness, but oneness is the way of it when we're not here in this physical individual body, but we're biased to think that way because we just see the one person. But your soul is my soul. I am you, you are me. And same with every person on the planet. So that's, for me, who Kryon is family, is home, is us, is all of us.
And I can sense that cultivating this essence of family and this intimate relationship with Kryon makes it so that you don't have to switch it on or off. So it's less about I'm getting a visual or it's coming through in a stream right now, and there's been a merging, there's been an integration, a blending as to involve Kryon in your life on a moment to moment, second to second basis. And this is so wonderful to hear because this is also how I experience, I would say, my relationship with Source and how I channel Source energy. It never really leaves you. It's sort of just a consciousness that's always there, popping in and out and playing with you and having fun with you. And it's really exciting to think about the masses and the average person moving towards being able to experience God within themselves in every moment. So thank you for sharing that with us. If you all are ready, I think it's time to bring Kryon in and let's see what does Kryon go by, he or she, or what should we call what are the pronouns?
Be careful because we'll be in trouble.
First of all, Kryon doesn't need any pronouns. I'll just
The
mention
answer
that.
is fun. Long before anybody was interested in pronouns, Kryon actually said there is no gender on the other side of the veil. Source has no gender. It's so interesting what humanity has done is, in general, they've made God a bad father. It's a male heavy idea what God is, always pictured as a male. And then you have the situation that it's a punishing God, even though they love you so much, which is like a bad father. It's so interesting, the gender bias we have with Source. There is no gender, there is no pronoun. And I said to Kryon, well, if that's the case, this discussion with Kryon was me in the shower, because I said, you have the gentleness of a star mother. You have, and yet you have the strength of the man that I love, the Christ figure that we've learned to love in church. And I said, it's all mixed up. I said, what is it? And this is when Kryon says, there is no gender here. And then he said, and there is none with you either. And he said, today you are a man. I said, you have been both genders on this planet many times. You go between them, you will do it again. Today you're a male. And then I started to realize and understand that Spirit sees us as one soul with many lives, many times, maybe even many planets, because we're eternal when we're not here. And so that puts a little bit different perspective. So I said, am I supposed to call you it? And that was, nope. And the answer always boiled down to, call me what is comfortable for you as a man. So we refer to Kryon as a he only because I am. But it's a joke because it's not a
I
he.
see. Okay, I see. And it does, maybe it feels more masculine because it's coming through you as a masculine conduit.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll just to keep things simple here, we'll go with he. But I'm actually hearing I am all that is. If you want to call me all that is, you can do
Yep,
that as well.
yep,
So
yep,
if
yep.
we can bring through Kryon all that
And
is.
we're going to do it for just us. This is a shorty. This is not a long one.
Okay, okay.
So you can experience that which is Kryon and also the message that is Kryon.
Yes.
You okay with that?
Yes, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
All
You're going to
right.
find out, and this has been the way it always is. I take off my glasses because I have a tendency when I'm channeling Kryon to be animated more than I am normally. I've often swatted off my glasses. So,
Okay.
And if this is if this is the first time you are experiencing Kryon, I really
Mhm.
invite you to just become really fully present
Okay.
in this moment and slow down your breathing and use this time for yourself, for a divine communication. So just slow your breathing, be open if it's your first time to experience Kryon. Kryon, if you are there, show me what message you have for me. And we're so grateful, Kryon. So grateful you are here. Thank you, Kryon, for being here.
Thank you, Kryon, for being here.
greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of magnetic service. The magnetic service. What is that? What if it was this? What if you are a magnet, somewhat, to the love of God? If I told you who you really were as I sit here loving you, I think it would make you think differently about everything. Dear ones, I will tell you something. You, all of you, have a soul. You know that. All of you have a piece of God, therefore, in that soul. All of you carry that with you on the planet. That soul is not somewhere else. You might say it sits upon every human in all of its magnificence and majesty, waiting for the human to discover it. What if you could just sit for a moment, be quiet, and feel angels around you saying, it's about time you let us in. I'll tell you this, there have been so many times where those around you who've come in with you just sit with you. They've watched you cry. They've been with you in all kinds of times with joy and laughter. They are more than just guides. They're part of you. Have you ever taken their hand? Have you ever said, thank you for being with me? Have you ever acknowledged the fact that they're here looking at you because you are the magnificent one on the planet on purpose right now? I want to tell you about that. It's not an accident that you are here. It's not an accident what's happening on the planet. When I came 35 years ago, I gave the message, something is going to happen. There will be no World War III. I gave you that message. First thing I told you. Instead, I told you there would be a different kind of battle. And you're experiencing it right now. It's a battle between a dark consciousness and a light consciousness. A time when the planet starts awakening to a bigger truth. This awakening is not something just for a certain age. This is something that is happening all over. Have you noticed some of the things in your society that have been active perhaps forever, for eons, eons? And you would call it human nature. You'd call it the way of things. I'll give you just one example. The way women perhaps have been treated forever. It started to change. Now, if you ask your grandfather, will this ever be different? He would say no, and it never has been, and it can't be, only because of human nature. What if I told you human nature is changing? It's becoming more awake. It's becoming that which is more compassionate. It's becoming more kind. It's starting to integrate humans with humans in a way that should always have been there. And now you're starting to see it everywhere. This is new. There are so much that is new. I told you that the planet would look to you perhaps very, very dark. You see wars, and there shouldn't be. At a time when you saw peace, suddenly there are wars. I told you that there would be a time when the light turned on so bright that the darkness would be alarmed and try to pull you back, even to the 1940s. There is so much there that they want to keep, but they won't. Light is winning on this planet. When you turn on the light in a dark room, the dirt shows. Dear ones, the dirt is showing. Did you notice? And in this, those who are starting to awaken to a greater idea of compassion and finding that which is in them, which is that spark of God, and loving each other a little more, are starting to see results. Hard to know when you watch your media. I have instructions for you. Stop watching your media. There is an agenda there, dear ones, not a bias, an agenda. The agenda is to keep having you watch because they sell things there. They want you to come back and come back. And the way to do that is to give you things that are attractive. And the things that are attractive to most are the negative things. And then they go and score it with music. That ought to tell you. Maybe it's not news. Maybe it's entertainment. Stop watching it. Read it when you can. And when you start doing that, you'll get a better sense of perhaps what is truly happening on the planet. I'll make a statement. Light is winning. And you won't know that by watching the media. You're going to know that by how people are starting to react to certain things, or how they're starting to treat each other better, or how they're starting to find solutions for things that were always broken on this planet because of human nature. And when you start seeing real solutions that stick, you'll know this planet is in shift. We talk about the great shift. It was predicted by those who are the indigenous of the planet in this precession of the equinoxes, and you sit in it. I will give you another statement. All of you are here on purpose. None of you are victims of this planet. None of you are here by accident. Not one of you. I look at you, and all I see is courage to be here when you knew these things would happen and make a difference on the planet. This is love. I want you to know how much you are loved, how beautiful you are, how magnificent a human being is in the eyes of God. And when you return to that which is your soul, you have a marvelous party. All of you do. And a thank you for the courage of all of you here now. Greatly loved you are. I'm Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.
Wow. That was quite powerful. I felt myself tearing up in the beginning because I could just feel the love, the loving presence and energy coming through. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm. I would love to ask you, I know you're here to ask us, but
Sure.
I would love to ask you how you see the future unfolding for the generations that are being birthed on the planet now.
I see people reclaiming their power through joy. And joy is something that I really focus on in my mission, how to make the day-to-day experience on earth a divine co-creation with source through your passions, through your talents, through co-creating with others. And I find that that is the most beneficial way to shift from being controlled by the sort of dark forces that Kryon was just talking about. It's through you have to find your direct connection to the God spark inside of you, and it has to be through joy. You have to learn how to truly enjoy being here, and that is how I see the younger or the newer generations activating this higher timeline for the planet.
I
Love it.
love it,
I love
and
it too.
it's so in line
Mhm.
with Cryon's message.
Mhm.
Joy and
Right.
laughter will actually
Yes.
change the chemistry in your
Mm,
body.
mm.
And as soon as a baby is born, the first thing the parents want to do is make their baby laugh. And laughing is contagious and it's an active energy. And I feel that we are ready to move into that vibration of joy, laughter. It will increase your life, it will increase your health, and it is a direct connection to the other side of the veil. And so I love that answer because we have too much drama and doom and gloom and lots of dysfunction that's being shown because this is an old system that's breaking
Yes.
apart. So whenever you see chaos out there and you think Cryon's not right, look at what's happening here and look at what's happening here. This is not right. No, this is exactly right because systems are being busted up and the ones who are invested in how things used to work are
Mhm.
trying to pull it back to that. But you know what? Doesn't have a chance. Kryon has also said the snowball is rolling down the hill. So there's
Mhm.
already momentum there. You cannot break the snowball. It's coming down. You can't stop it. And joy and laughter, if you don't get anything else out of this program,
Yeah.
really take that to heart. And how many times do you laugh a day? Whatever it is, try and make it even more the next day and find
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Make yourself laugh because the body chemistry doesn't know the difference between fake laughter and real laughter. And pretty soon you find that even in fake laughter, you end up laughing. So I
Yeah.
that's my take for the whole program.
Well, so many people will hear that, right? And they'll say, well, with all of the atrocities happening in the world, how can I allow myself to experience joy? And they may experience guilt. What would be grounded practical advice that you all or Cryon would give for people to be okay with their own expansion as others are perhaps still experiencing more chaos and duality?
Yeah, great
And,
question.
and Klein has really answered it, and he's taken that a few times. He's answered that because that's a really good question. Your audience, if you wanted to analyze your audience, and I can sit here and tell you, it's a generation that is starting to care, and in that, and if you're on a experience any kind of an awakening to a bigger truth, whatever that means to you, you're going to be probably one of those we call more empathic. That means you
Mm,
feel into situations more than others. And now this gets us into into an area that's difficult because suddenly we see what's going on in the world, and we see the wars, we see the atrocities, and all as you point out, and it's hard not to then just go there and
sure.
say, how am I going to feel any joy in my life when they're not? And Krein has said, be less empathic and be more proactive with compassionate action. Being
Mm,
empathic shuts you down. Did you know that? So it
wow.
doesn't help them when you cry with
Mhm,
them from a distance. If you look
mhm.
at what's going on and it shuts you down in the same way, how has that helped anyone? If you think about it. And so what Krein is saying is take that empathy and turn it into something
Mm,
called compassionate action. You can do that. When you
mm,
start feeling for them, say, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? You are incredibly strong, incredibly. as a human being with these powers in the field of projection of compassion and kindness. We've known that forever. Prayer works. It changes things. And we've learned that for hundreds and hundreds of years. That is the human being's consciousness put onto the field and going to the places that it should be or could be used the best. So here's what I do. When I am confronted with those kinds of things, when I see an atrocity, an accident, or something, I hear about something, immediately I go to this. I vision them, whoever they are, in a time when it has passed and they're able to smile again. I give them peace over the situation now, knowing time may change that.
Mm.
I put myself in the place of a healer, a master healer, even an angel healer, and I send them the energy of joy and love. I have just turned a shutdown of empathy into a projection of energy that is
Mm.
beautiful and loving, and I'm doing something about it. Now,
Mhm.
what happens?
Mhm.
The next thing you do is you come down off of that and you realize, I feel better. I feel much better because I'm able to do something.
I
And then
see.
that turns into focusing back on yourself and saying, I'm joyful. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Source, for this ability. Thank you for all that I am. And that then starts to make me laugh because it's such a change from what we've been
Mhm.
taught.
Mhm.
We're creatures of habit, and what are you taught? When you go to a certain situation and, with other people, and you see people in trouble, everybody says, "Oh, get on your knees and pray for them." They say, "Now everybody's crying." How is that helping anybody? Really, truly,
Right.
get up, manifest this energy, and send it to them so they can use it, and they can.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many
Mm.
people have said, I don't know what was going on, but I felt something at that point. I felt everybody at that point when I needed you most. That's what we do.
Mhm. Really what this sounds like is shifting from victim consciousness to creator consciousness,
Really?
where as opposed to being consumed by the negative emotion or the pain
Yes.
and the heartbreak, you allow it to show you what you would prefer. And
Yep.
I think as we're all becoming more quantum, we will recognize our ability to use that energy to recognize where we would prefer to go next in the field, as opposed to just essentially submitting to the dark forces of that particular moment or timeline, trying to consume us into lower energy, into lower vibrations, into focusing on the pain, because that's essentially what some of these energies want. They want to amplify the pain, so we keep fueling those timelines.
Erin, I always say, if you want to, if you really want something to say, if you start feeling bad about something, whatever, who is in control here? Who is
Mm.
really in control here? My magnificence is in control. The God part of me is in control, not anybody's problems that then will affect me. What I can do with that control now is take what I can do, you're right, and change it from that which the the negativity wants to do, and that's to stop this. And instead, I can give more light than I ever could before because I know
Yes.
where to send it. And
Yes.
that's just the way of a major change, I think, in thinking.
Mhm.
And the one thing I'd like to add is sometimes when you have something so personal happen to you, where overnight your entire world has crumbled, whether it's a death of someone you deeply loved and there's this deep grief inside of you, it's not just go and do joy and laughter. There needs to be that
Mm.
period where you can move
Process.
through grief. But the important point you made is to not be in the victim mode, the co creation mode. And every step forward, there's a piece in you, your higher self, that wants to pull you through that period. And the key is to have self compassion for yourself. you are doing an incredible job just by showing up on the planet. You have no idea how spirit, how God sees you just
Yes.
by agreeing to be here on earth and to go through that experience. My goodness, what an amazing person you are to have done that. So it's self compassion for when you're moving through grief or something that's quite traumatic. But the good news is that we are designed to self balance. So there's going to be things and moments in life where you get pulled out of balance and things will happen. And okay, I wasn't as graceful in that moment, or I wasn't able to have as much joy and laughter in that moment. But we're designed to be self balancing and come back to that place that is the core of your being. And the core of your being, it is peace, joy, oneness, belonging. That is who the core of you is. And so just recognizing that we're going to move out of balance, but hey, we're designed to do that. Don't beat
It's
yourself
part of the
up.
ride.
Part of the ride. Have self compassion and
Yes.
have those go to places that can help pull you and bring you back into balance. That's why when I was hearing Kryon and reading in the book, there was such a remembrance and a tingling and a reaction from my body, because here was a message that just rang so true. And every message I've heard from Kryon will always automatically bring me into that place of complete balance, that state of peace, and that awareness that all things are possible. Things are not what they seem. There is a beautiful, grand plan that my soul is a part of. And therefore, I can have peace with any situation that is happening because I am part of the plan.
Yes. Yes.
Erin,
And yes.
Erin, I have a question for you and me.
Okay. Let's do it.
Because there's a new, I would say, entirely new idea or paradigm that we teach, you and I both, and we even discuss it as though everybody knew it. How do you explain quantum to anybody? It means
Hmm.
something else if you go to CERN, for instance. But what we talk about as quantumness, you're a quantum healer, for instance.
Yes.
What's the difference? Why now? That's a new term for the last 10 years or so. How would
Mhm.
you describe that?
Quantum reality has become such a major part of my work because it's essential to being being able to experience a different version of yourself. You see, most of us are attached to a particular identity or expression of ourselves that we keep experiencing. So we keep living out the same reality, or, there's a continuation of this dramatic story, and I'm heartbroken, and this person did this to me. And when we go quantum, right? We recognize that, oh, wait a minute, I actually have a choice to experience something differently. So we can get into, you know, the quantum field and subatomic matter and electrons and how this entire network is communicating and shifting and rearranging energy. But to just simplify it, we're all quantum beings, and it simply means that we have the ability to activate a preferred parallel version and expression of ourselves in our life. And to me, that is the true definition of abundance. The condition of abundance is that I can go where I want in the field. I am not bound to anything or anyone, or even to who I think I am right now. That's how I work and teach about the quantum. What about yourself?
It's like I'll just tell people I can be in two places at the same time. That is
Mhm.
truly what it is. I can be right here in this chair, and I can be in my soul in the arms of Source and
Yes.
feel it all. I can be doing two things at the same time in a way. I can be talking to you at the same time I'm talking to my body about what's going on. I can be doing. I have so many choices. You're right, and it is a different paradigm that we are teaching of enablement for everybody.
Mhm.
And we have this singularity 3D idea, linear, of who we are. Our parents have told us, our church has told us, whatever, and that's who we are. It's not right. We are who we wish we are, and that is a
Mm.
magnificent R that we are. And so we
Yeah.
have all kinds of choices beyond what anybody has ever told us or defined us.
Sure. I want to ask you all about this sort of ancient human history that seems to be surfacing more and more. Talks about Atlantis, Lemuria, etc. If you all are open to discussing how you see this fitting into the expansion of our consciousness as a human species and civilization.
Erin, this is such a big question. It would take another hour or so. I'm not
Okay.
kidding, because we have a 47 lesson course
Okay.
on
Good.
the instructions for life given in Lemuria. We believe, and it has been given to me for over 3 decades now, what happened 200,000 years ago.
Mhm.
This is now becoming more scientific, and it's scaring a lot of anthropologists who are now able to look closely at DNA. This whole thing about us having 23 sets of chromosomes, very interesting, because if you take a look at anthropology and you're now being able to go back and dig up that and see what the bone marrow is and all, and find out that 200,000 years ago, there were 24 sets of chromosomes on
Interesting.
all humanoids of all kinds, and suddenly there were 23. And
Mm.
what the statement that I'm hearing from scientists now, and it's even on a couple of documentaries and at least one book, is that it looks like we didn't come from anything here. If that's the case,
Yeah.
where did we come from? Kryon says we came through intervention from the stars, that we have the DNA from the star family. That's another story. I'm not going to go into it yet, but to say that Lemuria was where that actually took place,
Mhm.
there is a place that has been identified that was Lemuria, a small continent, the continent of Mu. And in that place is Hawaii. Now, I'm not going to go further except to tell you that Hawaii is the largest mountain on the earth if you measure it from the bottom of the ocean to the top. If you could see that mountain pushed up in
Mhm.
any way, for any reason, it would be a small mini continent. This is what Kryon said took place then. Atlantis, those are offshoots of Lemuria. There are, Kryon says, because it's so ingrained in so many consciousnesses all over the world.
Yes.
I feel I was Atlantis. You hear this all the time. Kryon says because Atlantis is actually many islands
Mhm.
that destroyed themselves or whatever, not because we were bad, but mainly because of volcanic activity back then. We all have some kind of message in our DNA about
Mm.
an island that something happened on.
Mhm.
Lemuria is where many of us started in these life after life after life. Kryon says it's where we got the messages, the teaching. It was the actual Garden of Eden, you might say. And it's not, and that's as far as it goes. We didn't do anything bad there. Nothing happened that was wrong. God did not punish us or get angry. That's
Sure.
mythology, according to what Kryon says. That's also very much what the Greeks believed. It's what I would say what we do with stories. If you take a look, it's a good human story that there had to be conflict, there had to be wars in heaven, there had to be a devil, all of these kinds of things. And spirit is not that way. God is not that way. There never was a war in heaven. This is something that we created. And this is, I'm sorry if that gets me in trouble and you want to turn me off right now, but I want you to just I want you to think about this loving God who created you. Do you really think that they're watching exactly what you do and keeping track so they can punish you later? Or have an agenda
Right.
with your kid? They're going to punish them too. I mean, pretty soon it gets absurd. It really
Mm,
does. What?
mhm, mhm,
How
mhm.
can I ever believe that? No, it's turned the corner. So Lemuria is playing a very, very big part in remembrance. This is
Yes,
part of the awakening. The reason I'm not going to go into it too fully is because there is so much there to
of
talk
course.
about. And all of it is spectacular. It's good. This course we created took a year for Kryon to channel the various elements that we were given and taught and why you would be important in this. He called it a teaching wheel, and the spokes were all the subjects. There's one, there's one spoke that only deals with joy and laughter and
Mm.
how we arrive on the planet laughing, and we can leave laughing. There are so many ways that we've forgotten of how things might have worked in the past. The ancients are us. You got to remember that. So every time you talk about the ancients, you're looking at us. But also, I'll tell you that past 200,000 years ago, you're not going to find us. That's not a human with 23 chromosomes. Think about that one.
Mhm, mhm.
I love this whole subject of Lemuria and Atlantis. And again, it's what Lee said. It is more than just a memory, it's carried within the DNA, because in your DNA, you have Akashic remembrances. And those who have had profound experiences in these places called Lemuria and Atlantis, there is this remembrance of sitting with ascended consciousness, ascended love consciousness,
Mhm.
being the ones who are imparting to you beautiful instructions about the creator and about you and how all of this works. And the beautiful thing about this Akashic remembrance is that it's awakening right now, right on time, right when it's scheduled, not just by Kryon saying here is a shift, but it's a timeline that those who observed the cycles of the planet observed and predicted would be here now.
Mm.
And I'm talking about the precession of the equinoxes. It's an astronomical event that takes place every 26,000 years. Even the Mayans, who observed the movements of the sun and the planets in their observatories, predicted that 2012 would be the midpoint of this galactic alignment, this precession of the equinox. And their predictions on the glyphs, on the walls, is that if humanity would ever make it to 2012, we would have the highest consciousness that the planet has ever seen. This is the shift of consciousness, moving from one that is a lower consciousness, where the only thing that we have done in history is conquer and war for resources.
Mhm.
The mighty wins. Now we're moving into a consciousness where kindness, compassion, integrity, we are all one, is the consciousness of the day. And
Mhm.
that is the path that we've moved onto. The other fascinating part about all of this, when Kryon says we had spiritual intervention that came, altered our DNA, gave us this spiritual divine spark, and even named it as the ones from the Pleiades. When I started looking at the oldest living culture on the planet, which is the First Nations in Australia, the Aboriginals, in the middle of Australia in Uluru, you have the Ananu. Their
Mm.
creation story is that we came from the seven sisters, from the group of stars in the cluster of the Pleiades. And
Yes.
they have a 3,000-mile song line that tells the story of the seven sisters coming and that's their creation story. And all Indigenous all around the planet have similar stories of their creation story. So is it a coincidence? Did it actually happen? I feel it did happen. And when I have evidence of Ananu culture who are still present today, 50,000 years, they have been living in the moment in harmony with Earth and with each other. This is what gets me excited, because now we are in that shift and we are on that path. It's a guarantee.
And I see this as a direct correlation to what we were talking about with becoming more quantum. We're simply remembering who we've always been.
Yeah.
And
This
it's
is really, really
unlocking from the
important.
DNA.
Yes.
This is so important. You just hit it on the nose, because so many people, we were trained. So many people were trained that we have to have. First of all, we're nothing, never were. We're not even worthy. So therefore, everything good we get from someplace else.
Mhm.
Now we're reversing that and saying, what if it was always inside, and it's just a matter of revealing it, peeling the onion until we start to see it. So the best things on this planet to come are going to come from within us. They're not going to be delivered to us and we have to grovel for it. So it's a whole different idea of who we are. I hope that improves everybody's self-worth and understanding who we are and what we can do.
And what we are already encoded with. It is a part of our divine blueprint and our God spark. So I just want to say thank you both so much for your time, your energy. Thank you to Kryon for just the loving presence today. And would you so happen to have any final words, messages that you would like folks to walk away with?
I always tell them the same thing. And I always tell them, it's important that you understand that regardless of what the media says, light is winning on this planet, or you wouldn't see so many different things happening. When this war broke out with Ukraine, uh, those who were part of making it happen were sure that the old East-West stuff would happen. We'd go back to a status where we were. You know, when Switzerland takes sides, you know something's up. And the whole world said, no, not this time. Oh, that is so different. We are seeing a whole different paradigm of how people are thinking. If you took a poll right now on this earth and ask everybody, what do you want? They'd say, I want to know my children are going to be okay. I want to know they're
Yes.
going to have an education, and I want to know that they're not going to starve. That's number 1, 2, and 3. And you notice I didn't say anything political. I didn't say anything about East or West or countries or cultures. That is the common thread today. Now that we have the internet, we can talk to each other, and people are. So I want to say there is hope here. The snowball is rolling, and light is winning. And don't watch the news.
Light is winning and do not watch the news. Love those. And Monica, how about you?
There's a quote from Kryon where Kryon tells us that we are the forerunners of the planet and the hope of the galaxy. So your life matters in ways that we can't even fathom. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of just how precious you are. There is ascended love consciousness on the stars that know who you are. There is a galactic family who know who you are. And the more awareness you have of that quantum part of you, the more that love can be showered down. So that's really the question. How much love can you allow in your life? Do you give allowance? Who's going to love me today? How much love can I receive today? What if we could wake up every morning and just ask those 2 questions? Would it make a difference? Perhaps give it a try.
Yeah. Oh, I can feel the ripple effect of that, of how much love am I going to allow in today? That
Mm,
totally changes the vibrational frequency of your day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incredible, incredible, incredible. Well, thank you all so much. This has been so profound. And thank you to all of the listeners. We'll be back with another episode.